How we doing, folks?
Yo.
What's up, guys?
Hey, yo.
Another day. How you doing?
Yo.
Hope you guys had a fantastic week.
Was interesting, to say the least.
Well, lack thereof, actually.
Well, yeah, in the wrestling world, it was fairly uneventful, other than Mr. Inoki.
Yep.
But yeah, fairly uneventful this week. Like the IWC isn't up in arms over some stupid thing that WWE or AEW did one side or the other.
We did have a return on Raw. Candice LeRae is back.
Correct.
Which is good to see.
Yep.
But other than that, there's not really a whole hell of a lot to talk about in terms of like big news during the week. Besides the fact of Antonio Inoki, and we'll get into that before we hit the meat and potatoes of our episode. But for all you guys listening, my name is Johnny Deathdrop, and I am the host of the Dudes and Belts Wrestling Podcast. As always, folks, we have the crew here tonight. On the left, we have the one that lives way up there on the east coast of Maine, the inventor of the Lighthouse grading system, the one and only Coastal Crusader.
What is going on, everybody? Greetings and salutations on a wonderful Sunday.
On the top right, we have our resident masshole himself, the one and only Marky Pins.
Yo, what is good, everybody? I am the masshole, and I love when Coastal Crusader goes first. He has such a bubbly, uplifting intro. He always makes me feel good on an evening like this. Thank you, Coastal. I love it.
And for a second week in a row back, we might have to hire this guy as a full-timer here. He is the one and only Sunday Night Savior, the other Jeff.
So my first full week back. So I was back last Sunday, got a whole week to come into this Sunday, and then nothing happens in the wrestling world. Great. Awesome. Welcome back, Jeff.
Back. Yeah, thanks for coming back.
Welcome back, Jeff.
Stagnating everything.
And for those of you who are Triple I fans, you will see him on Dudes and Belts After Hours immediately after this recording here on twitch.tv/Rocky Mountain Pro, but we'll get into that later on in the show.
And there are support groups for you. For
very much so. Before we continue, as always, folks, we are not experts. This is an opinion-based show, as always. And before I continue, and we get the show on the road, let's hear a disclaimer from our one and only Coastal Crusader.
The views and expressions of the Dudes and Belts Wrestling Podcasts are those of the dudes and are only of the dudes. We are not professionals. We merely interpret the news and give you our opinions. Thank you.
Bravo, sir.
Elite. So well done.
And even though we are, you said opinion-based, some of us, I don't know who I might be referring to, can be extremely opinionated and think their opinion is the only opinion. But it's still just an opinion.
Was that, wait, time out. Was that a self-disclaimer?
Yep.
You just self-disclaimed yourself. Okay, all right. Where was that when we were doing top 10s back in the day?
Oh, it was there. It just never said it.
You know what? That was quite that was quite a respectful promo. He knows respect. He is a respectful guy.
He does have massive amounts of respect for the fact that we need respect here. We have to respect each other's respect.
We do.
I respect how respectful all you guys can be when you're respecting my time when I respect your time.
Perfect.
Respect, brother.
So much respect going on here.
I just a star.
Mm-hmm.
You should get a gold star for that one, actually.
It's on his shirt. He's already got one. He's good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's self-disclaimed.
Along with an umbrella and a circle and a triangle.
I got the umbrella in case it rains, a star because I got a gold star, and then half of a PlayStation controller.
He self-disclaimed and self-gave himself a gold star.
Self.
Just self.
Hey, you know what? You're going to grow up to be Bud Bellflower someday.
Don't offend me so much. I respect you. Respect me back.
There is so much horse cockery going on in there.
So much.
There are like layers to these jokes. So many layers to these jokes.
Respect the business of respecting the business.
You have to respect the layers of the business of respect.
All right. let's get right let's get right down into it.
First topic.
All right.
Ding ding, round one.
Before we get into our main topic, we do want to give our condolences to the families of Antonio Inoki, who recently passed this week, actually roughly about a few days ago of this recording. So if you guys want to give your thoughts before we get into the meat and potatoes of this episode, go right ahead. The floor is yours.
I mean, while he could be controversial at times, Antonio Inoki is kind of the godfather of combat sports, if you think about it. He really mixed the line of MMA and pro wrestling and boxing back in the day. The man took on Muhammad Ali. He was kind of the Vince McMahon of Japan. He really took New Japan global. He only wrestled Hulk Hogan, I believe, once, but in that one time, Hogan won the inaugural IWGP title, which really kind of put that company on the map and gave it some legitimacy outside of Inoki. While his booking decisions sometimes were not popular, they were respected, and there's a very interesting video on New Year's in 2000 of people lining up to get slapped by Antonio Inoki to pass his fighting spirit onto them. So look that video up because the line is out of the Tokyo Dome. Yeah, just him just hitting people in the face because he's passing his fighting spirit onto them.
I mean, this is a guy that has an, albeit unrecognized, reign with the WWF Championship. He did beat Bob Backlund for it, but
it was mentioned Friday night by Corey Graves.
You stole my point. I was waiting. I was hoping to go next. Damn it! You stole my point, Ken.
All right, I'll skip then.
It's all right. It's all right.
So my other point was going to be about him is he also trained wrestlers, and some of the names he trained are guys like the Great Muta, the original Tiger Mask, Masahiro Chono. You got Shinsuke Nakamura. Like, there's some high level dudes that he has trained in the wrestling business that became studs and still are. So, Nakamura still is a stud. So this is, like you said, that there's a guy, he was a great in-ring performer. He's been a promoter. He's been a booker. He's been a trainer. He's done every aspect of the business at one of the highest levels it's ever been done.
And, just well respected the whole world over. This is a loss to the wrestling community as a whole. I don't care what continent it's on. I don't care what level it's on. You've heard of Antonio Inoki. You know at least something about what he's done for the business. And basically, like Coastal said, putting New Japan on the map and just really getting wrestling going, combat sports going. Watched recently a documentary just a couple weeks ago because I was on YouTube watching wrestling videos and found a documentary that somebody did when he did that kind of play fight or that fight with Muhammad Ali, and whatever the outcome was, people have ways of saying it was this or that, but it doesn't matter. It put sports on the map like that, combat sports and wrestling. And he was a polarizing figure, but at the same time, he gave so much to the wrestling community. Everybody's going to have an opinion one way or the other, but you have to respect what he's done. All the jokes aside about respect, like, you got to respect what this man has done. And I hope he rests in peace and the wrestling community moves forward without any people saying anything negative about it. This is a man who deserves his rightful place in any Hall of Fame anywhere in the world.
And if anybody wonders, what style he worked back in the day, because back then he kind of created things, kind of watch either Walter Gunther or whatever you want to call him now. That's a very Inoki style. Lots of chops, very stiff, strong. Just, you had a match with Inoki when you got done.
Yeah, one of the godfathers of that Japanese strong style.
Yeah.
Did a lot for the business, that's for sure.
Fact.
Again, condolences to his family during this rough time. He will be a legend in this business for years to come.
Had he already been inducted?
I believe so, yes.
To the WWE, yes. I believe he did, yeah.
2010, yeah.
Yeah, so he's been in there for over a decade right now, so. Well deserved, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Let's get on with the rest of this episode. So, because our wrestling news has been kind of very low this week of, I don't even know what date it was. I'm not even going to get into that. We're going to do something a little bit different so that when we do have lull weeks during and in between these recordings, we're just going to throw a topic at you, whether it's mainstream or whether it's past wrestling or present wrestling or Rocky Mountain Pro Wrestling or anything like that. This week, because it's our first one, we're going to stick with a little bit of mainstream here. And this is going to be an open topic that could easily be debated. AEW recently bought Ring of Honor. We all know this. There has been a few shows for Ring of Honor recently. We actually went to the last one.
It was awesome. Death Before Dishonor 12? 12?
I don't know the number of it, but
It was Death Before Dishonor. That
was a great show.
That was
Awesome
the last
show.
Ring of Honor pay-per-view, and that was the show where Castagnoli won his first ever world championship. Now, this question: should AEW and Ring of Honor completely split in terms of not so much their partnership, but just really separate the talent, the titles, and everything away to its, I guess you could say, to another destination or another channel or TV slot? And B, do you think that AEW with Ring of Honor, and actually this is more of just like a broader topic to talk about afterwards, should they lose or separate a lot of these titles that are showing up on AEW? Not just including their own, because they have a bunch themselves. But I think, as a consensus, as a casual fan, not like diehards like us, because we pay attention to wrestling in itself, obviously. But for a casual fan, do you think having all these titles from all these different promotions are confusing the casual wrestling fan? So we'll start off with AEW and Ring of Honor separating and branching, and then we'll go into the next one. We'll start with Coastal and we'll work our way around.
Separating, I guess, yes. Tony Khan's done an okay job so far of managing these two companies under one banner. A lot of the times when you have Battle for the Belts or you have your dark elevation, a lot of that is your Ring of Honor people, the titles there on those cards. And you see them on Dynamite, but they're usually one match, or on Rampage is one match. I think they do need to split. I do. I think that ROH needs to be the NXT of AEW. I think it needs to be more indie-driven pro wrestling. I think that way you can get more of a sports entertainment feel on Dynamite and bring in the more casual people who are looking for that more entertainment rather than pro wrestling element. But you can still keep people. The Ring of Honor has always been about pure pro wrestling. It really has. I think Tony Khan's trying to get eyes on it by having Chris Jericho be the champion right now. You're going to get your casual fans to tune in to Ring of Honor matches because Chris Jericho is champion. Not taking anything away from Claudio. Well deserved. You need to put eyes on that particular part of the business right now to make sure that when you do split it, it's successful. So I understand that with Tony Khan right now and why he put the ROH title on Jericho. A lot of pure Ring of Honor fans are not happy about that. But it makes sense when you think about it from a point of view of drawing business. I won't get into my thoughts on the titles right now because I think Johnny's trying to split that up, but that is my thought of AEW splitting with ROH.
And we'll get into the your opinions on Chris Jericho and Castagnoli, that match, and if it's a good business decision to do what they did and give Chris Jericho the Ring of Honor title. I know Coastal kind of answered that a little bit, but we'll get more in depth with that later on. Maki, go ahead.
I kind of agree with him. Not even the titles aside, they're separate companies, right? We're all talking about pro wrestling here, but Ring of Honor was much more the traditional pure wrestling aspect of wrestling, and AEW is the more of a mainstream that has a much more entertaining vibe to it. people like us, purists like us, we love watching wrestling anyway, so we can find entertainment even in a match that has nothing but, arm drags and chin locks and stuff. We can find beauty in that. But there's a lot of people who just watch their wrestling just because they know that guy. They know Chris Jericho is in AEW. They know that this guy is here. They want to watch FTR, and they know they have to watch AEW to see that. But when you combine two companies, one like Ring of Honor that has such a heartfelt fan base, like let's be honest, like they're a wild fan base that love their style of wrestling. AEW's fan base, it's similar people, but I think it's a very different vibe that both companies throw off. And it's going to be very difficult for this to coexist and then separate if they wait for too long, in my personal opinion. I understand what you want to do. You want to mix it up. You want to get more eyes on the Ring of Honor product by having a lot of it be on AEW. And that will be a success. The problem is if you wait too long, in my personal opinion, you're not going to get enough eyes back on Ring of Honor because you might turn away a bunch of purists, a bunch of the old school Ring of Honor fans who watched it because of Ring of Honor's more competitive nature, more pure nature than AEW's more entertaining nature. I don't think they want to be called sports entertainment. They want to be called just wrestling in AEW, which is fine. But Ring of Honor was where I went to go watch all my pure wrestling. If I just wanted to watch great wrestling and not worry about the ton of flips or a ton of promos or things like that, you watch the Ring of Honor match and you watched a fantastic wrestling match. May I bring out a lighty scale real quick? Almost every match would be a 4 lighty or better match. More often than not, then it wouldn't be. So this intermingling of the two companies, I think, is good right now, more for AEW than it is for Ring of Honor, to be honest, because you're bringing a lot of Ring of Honors over. But like Coastal said, they're giving the belt to Jericho. Yes, while it does put eyes on the belt itself, it also has a way of turning off a bunch of old purists who loved every minute of Claudio Castagnoli winning that title because he is a great pure wrestler. Is he entertaining to listen to and watch? Oh, by far. Yes, absolutely. But he is what I think of when I think of an embodiment of a Ring of Honor champion. Chris Jericho, not so much, but Chris Jericho's polarizing. He gets you to feel one way or the other, and he gets you to watch him to see what he's going to do next. So I understand both sides of it, but I think if they keep this together for too long, that could end up having diminishing returns the longer they wait. That's the only point that kept coming to my head once we started talking about splitting. It's like, I think they need to, but I don't think they can wait 6 months to a year before they do it. I don't think that would be a good idea.
All right, Sunday.
I mean, I definitely, I hate to, we're always more boring when we all agree with the same thing, but I definitely think a split is needed. To me, it doesn't have to be like a super hard split. It doesn't have to be these are only ROH guys and these are only AEW guys, but have some sort of separation between the two of them. I'll get into more reasoning why that would work better when we talk a little bit more about the titles. But like, just to see, the same guys that we saw in, we went to the Death Before Dishonor. Most of the guys we saw on that show, we see on Wednesday nights. You know what I mean? Like, was it a Ring of Honor show? No, it wasn't. It was an AEW show under ROH. That's what it was. So that's what I don't like is, like if you go, let's say you wanted to go 3-4 years ago when NXT was like really in its groove, to use the NXT analogy. If you went to an NXT show back when it was, Adam Cole and Bayley and all them kind of at the top of the card, and all of a sudden, you saw Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns and all those guys taking that, and you don't get to see Adam Cole and Bayley and all the people you actually went to go see because they brought down everybody from Raw. That would be frustrating. It's cool to see those people, but I'll see them on Monday. I came here to watch NXT. We went to Death Before Dishonor to watch Ring of Honor. And yes, there was a lot of Ring of Honor wrestlers there, but I mean, we see Claudio Castagnoli on Wednesday nights every week. We see FTR. We see Daniel Garcia and Wheeler Yuta and Samoa Joe and guys like that a lot. on Wednesday nights or Friday nights. But so it definitely needs some sort of separation. The one thing I have is I wouldn't doubt if Tony Khan's trying to separate them, but doesn't have an outlet for a Ring of Honor TV show. And without a Ring of Honor TV show, you can't separate them because then anybody that gets branded out of Ring of Honor don't get seen at all.
So is it a bad move for Tony Khan to even purchase Ring of Honor in the first place?
No, I don't think it was. He gained a lot of value out of it. Even just the video library was worth it. But
it was worth it, so Vince didn't buy it.
Right. If Tony didn't buy it, we'd be watching Ring of Honor stuff on Peacock right now. It would already be there. But it wasn't a bad move. But Tony Khan doesn't have the connections he thinks he has. You know, like, it took them a while to get the TV deal with TNT originally. And you know who had a lot to do with that? Cody Rhodes and Chris Jericho.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Tony's probably shopped around Ring of Honor for a TV deal and hasn't gotten the bite he thought he would. So maybe it becomes a stream deal. You know, you get him on Paramount Plus or you know something like that. Even Discovery Plus, something along those lines. If you can get Ring of Honor on one of those streaming platforms, it can be viable.
Disney Plus.
Yeah, hey, it could happen. It's not likely, but it could. But
let's face it, how much longer is cable TV really going to be around in everybody's home? In 10 years, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, just look at Thursday Night Football on Prime Video. You know what I mean? Right. Like, it's NFL stuff is going to it.
Right. You know, cable's being phased out much the same way landlines are phased out and in so much less homes nowadays. Cell phones took over, mobile ability. Now you can watch all that on your phone or on your TV in your house. Cable TV it's hurting right now with the advent of streaming platforms like this. And this would be, and that's a good point that the Savior makes, that this is a really good outlet for, instead of getting a whole kind of TV deal on a spot during the week at some point in time, it can be a streaming service, even an AEW network, much like a WWE network, you know, and you can have your Ring of Honor section.
They had one. It was called Honor Club. I was a part of it. You could watch all of the old Ring of Honor stuff, the new stuff. That's how I watch Ring of Honor every week to stay up to date instead of in syndication. So he has the structure and the servers there to do a network.
But I think they need to be attached to it, like how WWE went to Peacock. They need to be attached to a bigger.
Yes, I agree.
A standalone won't be successful. They need to be attached and get bought. Like Netflix. They could go to Netflix, you know, and have Netflix just pay them to produce content for them. That's what Netflix does.
Original weekly content. That's what Netflix is buying anyway from almost anybody nowadays.
Right, and Netflix hasn't gotten into live television yet. Hulu
has.
Yeah,
Hulu has.
A lot of them have, but Netflix hasn't stepped into that. This could be a foray for them if they want to attempt live broadcast television. This could be a way. They get Ring of Honor, and if they do well with Ring of Honor, they could eventually maybe lure AEW away from Warner Media.
All right, let's get into the titles. Because I don't know about you guys, but I've been seeing a whole shit ton of different titles from different companies around the world.
Yeah.
I think it's time to stop that. I don't know about you guys. I want to say that the companies that I've seen so far has been Impact before. We have AAA. We have New Japan. And we have AEW titles, all on Dynamite and Rampage. My personal opinion, it needs to be some type of cut of gold, I guess you could say. We'll go around the room again, get your opinions. Start with Coastal.
You know those scales, Johnny, where they have 1 is strongly disagree and 5 is strongly agree? I'm going to go with a 1 with you, but I strongly disagree with that. I am a wrestling guy that I like to see titles from other companies. Do I want to see them defended on not their shows? No, I don't. But I like seeing them. I like seeing that this person is a champion from another company because it intrigues me about that company. If I like that person when I see them on AEW, then I'm more apt to tune into that other company if they have a show to see them wrestle with that title. What, if they're the top guy, what's the under of them look like? So I do I like seeing FTR come out with 3-4 different sets of belts. I love it. I like seeing Daniel Garcia as the pure ROH champion on AEW TV. It makes me be like, oh, he runs with Jericho, who is another champion of that. Now I want to look into that company. That's my thoughts. I don't think ROH titles should be when they get their own show, because we know it's coming eventually, then they should not be defended on AEW. That is one gripe I have.
But they have been, yes.
Yeah, I don't think AAA titles or New Japan titles or stuff like that should be defended outside of that particular company. Not saying outside of, Japan or anything like that, because they come over and do MSG shows, West Coast shows a lot. Just look at the company. If you're going to have the IWGP United States Heavyweight title, do it at a New Japan show, not an AEW.
Yeah, I like belts too. Like when I was a kid, it was the belts when I was younger that attracted me to wrestling. But I also understand there's something to be said about overstimulating people with the belts. Like everything is a title. There's a lot. But in a way, I'm kind of with Coastal. I like seeing champions on my TV. I like seeing them come down. I like seeing them cut promos. I'm a little indifferent about other companies' titles being defended in a different company. If you're going to do that, it should be something long story. There needs to be a good reason why it's happening over here. There needs to be some kind of feud or story going between a couple top guys or a couple top tag teams or something to that effect where it's a good, long, drawn-out story. I also understand the point that John makes where when I turn on AEW and I see belts from 3 or 4 other organizations, if I'm not a big wrestling fan, like we know these other organizations exist, if you're an average person or like a rando that doesn't know, you will get a little confused by this.
And that's really my catalyst for my point.
And I hear it 100%.
And it's just confusing the casual fan base. Not guys like us, because we watch New Japan, Ring of Honor, and all that stuff before.
But the majority of a lot of these wrestling fans nowadays are people who are much more in the know. We've talked about this before. Some people say it's 80-20. Some people say it's 60-40. I don't know. But one thing I do know is that everybody has a Google machine in their pocket. And if anybody sees, well, this person is with this title, they can look and find out what it is. Now, is that up to them to do? No, it should honestly be up to the announcers to let you know how important these people are. And the fact that they come out with gold around their waist or over their shoulder should let you know that they're pretty important people. But if you oversaturate that, then we run into the other problem of, well, how do you get a reaction out of it now when we've seen teams come out doing the belt collector gig like FTR has done, like Kenny Omega has done? Like, we like to see that randomly. I'm okay with it. I kind of like it. Seeing somebody that's that important that they're a champion in so many multiple organizations. But I don't want to see those titles really defended on a different show unless there is a good reason for it. And that's where the ROH titles are getting mixed in with the mixer. I know it's all on one show because there is no Ring of Honor show, but it's a tangled rabbit hole that we go down with so many titles from so many organizations on one company's show.
And Sunday.
And I do agree that it does get confusing. That I have two takes on this. I don't like all these titles being out there for a couple reasons. One of them is, who's the champion? So Jericho is celebrating he's now an 8-time world champion. So then what's Jon Moxley right now? He's the world champion, right? So 2 guys in the same show claiming they're world champions. That's confusing. You have FTR show up, and they're carrying 2 tag team championship belts, and neither one of them are the AEW tag team championship belts.
Right.
It's 3. It's 3.
Well, yeah,
and they're
whatever.
not even the AEW.
And none of them are AEW tag titles. So confusing. it's also a little bit of the Oprah Winfrey. You get a title. You get a title. Everybody shows up as a champion. What's everybody fighting for then? If everybody's a champion. But to me, like, if you look at the belts, AEW has, for the men, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I won't even count the FTW championship. So for the men, singles, tags and trios, total titles is 5. But if you count the actual, straps, the belts, then it's 8 because of the tag and the trios. So that means there's 8 different champions. 8 people that can claim they're a champion. 8 men. And then you go to Ring of Honor and they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as well. Same thing with a tag and a trio. So that's 16 men just between those two companies, not including...
And that's not even counting the women's either.
Yeah, and that's not counting people that show up with IWGP or at one point Impact championships that were coming in, or AAA champions that were coming into to AEW at times. So, like, when everybody comes out and they have a strap around them, like, okay, if everybody's got one, none of them mean anything. So that's my biggest gripe against it. Like, the trios, dumb. I hate the trios titles. Hate them. Say you have a main world title, you have a mid card, championship, and you have a tag title. Done. Both companies. That's how you do it. Ring of Honor has the television championship and the pure championship. Merge them. Get one. You need one there. One there. Not both. Get both of them. Maybe Ring of Honor. You get rid of the tag titles and just have trios. And AEW you get rid of trios and just have tag. You do something like that. But I hate when it's oversaturated with championships because, like I said, everybody gets a trophy. It's just annoying to see everybody come out like it. So you guys know my father. He does like wrestling. He's been to an AEW show with us before.
Yep.
He's a fan. But he doesn't watch weekly and follow. So if he watched an AEW show and everybody walked out with the title the way they could have literally every match have somebody walk out with a championship and start and be like, what title's that? What does he have? Like, he would be like dumbfounded by it. And he's a casual fan. So it's just, it is one thing I don't like about the AEW Ring of Honor crossover, but AEW alone has too many to begin with. Never mind adding Ring of Honor's titles to it.
Do you have a second point?
Well, I kind of blended them. One was the one was the too many titles, and one was the because it's just you get a title, and the confusing of Chris Jericho is a world champ and Jon Moxley is a world champ. So you got. Who's in on the one? Mercedes Martinez is a world champ, and technically, and Thunder Rosa and Tony Storm are world champs right now. Because
I
there's an interim.
I hate that.
I don't like the interim thing.
I'm not an interim guy.
No.
Oh God.
If you go out on an injury or some other, you have to relinquish.
You need to relinquish and then come back and then have a number one contenders match because you deserve to have a number one contenders match.
I agree with that. You should deserve to have a match for it when you come back, but you need to drop it if you get hurt or something like that. You're not still the champion.
See, it makes sense in like a UFC to have an interim champion because they're selling pay-per-views. They're not selling weekly television. They're not doing weekly television with it. It's but it's like, oh, the featherweight title was supposed to be defended at UFC 275, and the featherweight champion got hurt. Well, we're gonna have a fight anyways, and still crown a featherweight interim champion. Yeah. And like that, just so they can actually have that. Like that, they're selling pay-per-views. It's hard to sell without a championship on the line. But in wrestling, it doesn't seem to work to me.
Do we have any backlash? Well, not backlash, but any other points?
No, I mean, everyone's entitled to opinions, and my problem I have with this whole Ring of Honor thing and all that isn't even the titles. It's Tony Khan did a lot of Ring of Honor people kind of dirty.
I agree with that.
Sarge,
Mute button, sir. Mute button.
Oh, sorry.
From what I've heard, he waited till contracts expired to sign the deal to buy the company, so he did not have to bring along a lot of the ROH people that were there. And that's kind of what I have an issue with. If you want to pick and choose, that's fine. But be upfront about it. Don't say you saved a company and you're a true wrestling fan when you honestly, purposely made sure that 3/4 of that company you didn't have to pay for in talent. There's absolutely no reason that Bandito and Roosh and those guys should even have to have tried to get an AEW contract. They should have been brought over under their ROH contracts and absorbed.
Be a very interesting match on Wednesday with Jericho and Bandito.
That will be.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anything else on that
I
topic?
thought it was Andrade.
No, I thought it was Bandito.
That's Bandito.
I'm pretty sure. We can fact check that. It don't even matter.
Going to the ladies' side here real quick in AEW and stuff. I don't mind that there is an AEW Women's Champion. I don't mind that there's a Ring of Honor Women's Champion. I don't mind that there's a secondary title, like there's the TBS title for the lady. I don't mind that at all. I think if you have, yes, they absorbed it so the women's title comes over from Ring of Honor, but having an AEW Women's Champion, I hate the interim thing. Toni Storm, in my opinion, is the champion. I know she's the interim champion, but it is what it is. You can have that. You can have the mid-card title like the TBS, and you should have a tag team. They have a deep roster of women, and I honestly think that would help if they had the tag team titles to go after and chase, put a few of the ladies together that aren't doing much together, and let them go nuts. Let somebody tag team with Ruby Soho. Let her, Soho. She's not Ruby Riott anymore, my bad. Have somebody tag with her and let her bring somebody young up and let her mentor somebody, and then they could be, there's many different ways you can do it. I think that what they have an overabundance of on the men's side, I would almost say that they're either right where they need to be or maybe lacking the ladies tag team champions in AEW, because they don't have a ladies tag team titles in AEW, do they?
They
No.
don't. And I kind of play off that, Mark. My thought is that either Dark Elevation or Dark should be your women's show. Change the name, whatever, revamp it, and that is just your ladies show. Yeah, you can have
the roster. They
right.
have the roster.
You can have your TBS title and your women's title defended on Dynamite if you want, or defended on Rampage. That's fine. But they have a deep enough roster now of women that they could do a women's only show. And bring it, you have your TBS title, you have your main title, you bring in the tag titles. That's it. But then you use the rest of it to build up people who actually would be credible challengers for Jade Cargill. Because right now, there isn't one.
Which will bring me to my one other little gripe is that, in my opinion, now this is just my opinion, of course, I think the AEW World Women's Champion is overshadowed by the TBS Champion. I think with Jade Cargill being the TBS Champion makes the Women's Championship look irrelevant at the moment.
I think the interim label on that didn't help that either.
It was like that before, though.
I know, but there's still a lot more focus being put on Jade Cargill for that, because you look
and
at
rightfully
Jade Cargill,
so. Yeah, I mean,
right.
she
can pick up any woman in the ring and throw her into the 8th row and take her belt.
And she can talk. I mean, she talks the talk. She walks the walk. She's got the gimmick. She is a little stiff in the ring because she's new. I mean, I certainly wouldn't put her with any. Certainly wouldn't put, Saraya there with her right off the bat. Yeah, you don't want, break it into the new toy. But she, right now, there's no one in. I'm sorry. If you had Dr. Britt Baker go against Jade Cargill right now, you turn Dr. Britt Baker super face.
You would have to at that point.
Whoever takes that title off her needs to be face or turning face. And that's actually not a bad idea right now, is to turn Britt Baker face.
I don't disagree with that at all. Now, before we continue on with the episode, we're not going to do ads this week because we're currently getting new ads for our shows. Hopefully that will be up next week. But I will say that Rocky Mountain Pro Charge airs every Tuesday night. 9 p.m. Mountain Standard Time over on twitch.tv/Rocky Mountain Pro. And also their live weekly show on Twitch, the only one on Twitch as a matter of fact, here also on twitch.tv/Rocky Mountain Pro, starting at 6:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time on the dot. About an hour and a half of live pro wrestling where you get to interact with the commentators and you get to interact with all the talent in Twitch chat as well when you're here. And if you want to check out Dudes and Belts content after these shows that we do on Sunday nights, we do have 2 other shows, Dudes and Belts Recharge and Dudes and Belts Reignited, following both Charge and Ignition. Also, same place, twitch.tv/Rocky Mountain Pro. If you guys want to join us for our live recordings, we are currently recording this show live in front of our Twitch chat. And there are some pretty good comments in here right now. So if you guys want to interact with all of the Rocky Mountain Pro faithful here in this community and you want to watch our live recordings, we are here at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time or 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Again, on twitch.tv/Rocky Mountain Pro. I know I say that redundantly, but I have to. And, of course, if you guys want to stick around, because after recordings here, it's a Twitch exclusive show. We do Dudes and Belts after hours immediately following our recordings, where we really dig deep into anything the chat wants to talk about. And that's my spiel, because we don't have our normal ads this week.
Yeah, hey, come hang out in the audience and, watch us do this. And, it'll be like an old episode of like Plus.
Dudes and Belts is recorded in front of a live studio audience.
We might as well add that on the soundboard. And also, guys, if you want to follow me personally, I do stream a few nights a week here on Twitch. It's twitch.tv/Johnny Deathdrop. I haven't done that yet. My first plug. All right. Moving on. We'll kind of wrap up this episode with this topic. Do you agree that this is a very good or a very bad business decision, since we're on the topic of AEW and Ring of Honor, to have Chris Jericho defeat Castagnoli to become the Ring of Honor Championship in hopes of having a network pick up Ring of Honor, knowing that Chris Jericho is going to be their number one guy? Thoughts?
I mean,
We'll have Sunday go first this time.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was because I think it's a great idea, because if you look at when they were trying to get a network deal for AEW, who was their first champion? Chris Jericho. And it worked. And they got on TNT and then TBS. So he's a name that sells, and he's the best name they got. To cross over to have people outside of the wrestling world know who somebody is. If you had to ask anybody, you've ran every name on the AEW roster other than the Arn Andersons and those type of guys. You ran every one of those names down the line to non-wrestling fans. The only name that might catch somebody's eye is Chris Jericho. So I think it's a great idea, and since they don't have a separate TV show for them for Ring of Honor, it doesn't hurt the Ring of Honor brand to have Chris Jericho as your champion. Now, if this was already after a split and you had him win it, then it would be like, they're doing stupid stuff. But that Ring of Honor title has been defended on AEW television more than once. It's basically an AEW title right now, and you can use that to, like I said, to sell Ring of Honor as a legitimate brand and a legitimate source of content creation.
And I think that's what it is. I think this was just it was a good business decision to put it on Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho puts butts in seats. He makes people watch him because how polarizing he is, what he can say, how well he can still wrestle, how well he's still one of the best mic guys in all of wrestling at this moment. It's a very smart business decision. Did it make, Twitter explode? Yeah. But sometimes if you own the company, you got to look and go, I don't care. This is the guy I want to carry this banner to make sure that this other company succeeds. Then what you do is you bring up another ROH guy later, probably Castagnoli again, because he is a force to be reckoned with. And the fact that he wouldn't have a title around his waist is almost a crime against humanity, in my opinion. But this is a good move business-wise for AEW to have Jericho for the namesake, the name value of it. Once they split, it's got to change after a little bit of a while. In this guy's personal opinion, you're going to have to give it to somebody who's a little more ROH-y. Please and thank you.
ROH-y.
ROH-y. Yes.
So I think if booked correctly, this is a genius move. I mean, it's a good move in the short term as well, because as we've said, we beat this to death already. Jericho is a well-known guy. You're going to get eyes on ROH. My thoughts are, if booked correctly, it is a good way to get both ROH to make Jericho an even bigger heel and a bigger legend than he already is, because you have a sports entertainer, a self-proclaimed sports entertainer, who now holds one of the most pure wrestling championships, aside from the pure wrestling title, but in the wrestling world. I think you use Jericho to put over someone young, and I'm going to go with Daniel Garcia. My thoughts are you eventually need to put this title on Daniel Garcia and shoot him to the moon. We saw him have a really great match with Bryan Danielson. We saw him kind of have issues with Jericho. I think in the long term, I think Jericho does beat Claudio in a ring. But I think, again, he does it dirty. And I think it just boils and boils with the Jericho Appreciation Society. It pushes Daniel Garcia out. And I think, honestly, Jericho beats Bryan Danielson for that ROH title at some point. And then I think he costs Daniel Garcia the ROH Pure title, and that pushes Garcia over the edge. Then you have him feud with Jericho about how Jericho's not a pure wrestler, how he shouldn't have the Ring of Honor title, he's a sports entertainer, and that's how you push Garcia to the moon. And if you have Garcia go over Jericho, you are hand-making someone to take that Ring of Honor torch and push it towards the new generation of Ring of Honor style guys. Daniel Garcia is that. And I've always thought having him learn under Jericho, genius move for him in his career.
Any thoughts? Do you think, in your opinion, do you think that this was a smart move? Or, I shouldn't say that because I basically asked the exact same question.
Yeah.
Do you like Jericho just being a world champion again, period, end of story? Do you think he even needed a strap for the rest of his career?
Personally, no.
So,
The name of Jericho means so much in the wrestling world. It's almost like overemphasis on the given situation.
I think they're using Jericho, though, to elevate the ROH title a little bit. And the only way that I think this, one of the big downfalls is, and we talked about this, is you can't do this and then wait 8 months to get a TV deal. No, you need to have a TV deal in the next 4 or 5 months with Jericho still having that title. So hopefully he's done enough stuff on AEW TV with the ROH title. He's in a big enough feud that first night you have the ROH show, your main event needs to be Chris Jericho dropping that strap to someone that matters to that company.
I completely agree.
Agreed as well. So
they need to do it soon because that roster is getting overcrowded.
They have 3 months max. You can't, and here's why I say that, guys, and it's going to sound weird because it shouldn't have anything to do with WWE. You're running out of time before you get to Survivor Series, Royal Rumble, WrestleMania season. You try and do anything in that kind of 4-month period in there, you're going to get overshadowed by big returns, big feuds, and the road to WrestleMania. You have to do this in the next 4 or 5 weeks, or you have to wait until April. And April's too long.
Because there are people that need to get paid. That's for sure.
Well, it's just you're going to be overlooked. Who cares about an ROH? Because you you know they're going to book it so there's a big WWE event coinciding with anything Tony Khan does because they've already shown that's what they like to do.
Well, especially what happened the last time during SummerSlam.
Yeah. Or, it was
And
Clash at the Castle.
yeah, Clash at the Castle. That one.
Yeah.
And it competed with All Out. So, I don't know. They either need to let people go, or they gotta make this Ring of Honor show happen. Because
a second Ring of Honor, a second branded show is what I mean. The problem is then they still dilute themselves a little bit because I mean they're already producing 3 hours of TV and I don't know how many hours of YouTube.
I think 2 hours of YouTube or 3 hours of YouTube.
Well, okay. Well, here's the thing with Dark, not Dark Elevation, because as you guys know, you've been doing AEW shows. Dark Elevation, Dynamite, Rampage. That's typically how they do their filming on the Wednesdays. Dark is actually on a soundstage down at Universal Studios, and they film 3 or 4 weeks at a time.
But it's still producing that much content that you're having out there
That's true.
That you
That's
want
true.
eyes on, and now you're going to add another TV show that's probably 2 hours that you're going to trying to get eyes on as well, and then you're going to produce pay-per-views for those as well. So obviously, AEW does a good job of pay-per-views where they don't just shove them down your throat every 3 weeks. They spread them out. That is better and lets you breathe more. But no matter how much money the owner has, he still wants to make money, and pay-per-views make money. So,
but hear me out. You have your AEW shows to make money. Hear me out, and this may be just me fanboy. What if you did ROH stuff as like Clash of the Champions style events, like WCW used to have? Not your big ones, not like Death Before Dishonor and Honor Card and stuff like that, but like, instead of having they do it with Battle of the Belts, but have it all ROH instead of mixing things in.
But I think you're using up you're using up a time slot for AEW at that point, just for Ring of Honor that you'll probably but you won't see for months again. You know what I mean?
But you don't need Battle of the Belts for AEW. That's every Wednesday and Friday, honestly. When was the last time there wasn't a title match on a Dynamite or a Rampage?
Well, to me, it's just Dynamite is kind of like almost every week Dynamite feels like a Clash of the Champions. Like they're trying to make it special. They put a different name on it. It's the Grand Slam. It's the this. It's the that. And naming all these Dynamites, these special Dynamite stuff, where they become less special. Because to me it's just the Dynamite, and they want to. I don't know. It's every Dynamite has a different name, and I think that's what's going to happen if you do that with Ring of Honor. So if you're saying, let me get this. Make sure I have what you're trying to say right. Like Ring of Honor gets a TV show, but instead of having pay-per-views, they do it on that, or is it if Ring of Honor doesn't have a TV show, they just?
If Ring of Honor doesn't have a TV show,
okay,
if they can't get a weekly show, then it's once a month, and it's a big ass style Clash of the Champions show, and you do vignettes and promos on AEW television.
But you got to get so that once a month thing, you still need a TV deal for though.
Throw it on TBS.
They don't. TBS has to deal with AEW, not Ring of Honor.
AEW presents Ring of Honor.
Yeah, but that's a quirky way around it. But if I'm TBS, I'm going no. I'm paying for AEW. I'm not paying for Ring of Honor. I want AEW on my airwaves, not Ring of Honor. We can talk about a Ring of Honor deal that I won't pay you as much for the time slot because it's not as big of a name.
Right, but you're not telling me that if Tony Khan is setting this up the way I believe he is, he's going to come in and say, "Hey, I want to show you how Ring of Honor can sell. So I'm going to give you Chris Jericho and Bryan Danielson for the Ring of Honor Championship, and then I'm going to give you the Young Bucks, former Ring of Honor tag team champions, against FTR, current Ring of Honor tag team champions." He'll load that first card up so big.
Yep.
It'll basically be ROH Mania, and TBS will see the views from it, and they'll go, "Okay, you want to do this once a month? Sure."
The problem is loading that card up like that and putting ROH on it isn't going to get the views as if that same card said AEW in front of it.
I think it will, just because they're going to promote it so much on Dynamite and Rampage. You're going to get everybody who watches AEW to see that card and see the people on it and be like, oh, well, it's free. Okay, I'll tune into that.
Yeah, to a point, but I still think the name of Ring of Honor doesn't carry the weight. So that there's a percentage, I don't know how big of a percentage, but there is a percentage that will just go, oh, Ring of Honor, I've never really cared for that. I like AEW, though. You know, like, just won't tune in.
But
they see Jericho and they see FTR and they see the Bucks.
If you like AEW right now, then you know for a fact then that they have Ring of Honor.
Yeah.
And if you've seen Ring of Honor shows, then you know that it's so intertwined with AEW that if you like AEW, you would tune in to watch ROH because you know how intertwined they are.
But again, I'm going to use my father as an analogy here as kind of that more. My father knows what AEW is and he's entertained by watching it. He doesn't like if I.
He's a fan. That doesn't mean he's a fan. If you're a fan of AEW,
but I'm talking about somebody that might tune in. That might tune in if he saw AEW. If he's flipping the channels and sees a wrestling thing and he sees AEW's logo on there, he might stop and watch. If he sees Ring of Honor, he probably won't because he doesn't know anything about Ring of Honor.
Jericho, he goes stop.
Yeah, but Chris Jericho is going to be on for 20 minutes of the show, not 2 hours of the show.
And that would make me watch more of the show. I'm not trying to be devil's advocate here.
I'm just saying Jericho's on for the last 20 minutes of the show. The first hour 40, if he's flipping through, he doesn't see Chris Jericho. He sees the Briscoes. And he doesn't know who the Briscoes are.
Okay, if you solve that problem by not announcing who Chris Jericho's first opponent for the ROH title will be on ROH's first show. That's the first 15 to 20 minutes of the show as you announce. Yep. There you go. You're front loaded and back loaded.
Yeah, it would definitely help.
Tony Khan, are you listening? I can book.
Well, Tony can't. So I
Mark, bro.
I think it's branding is huge. Like, look at the reason TNA never took off to what AEW is now is because of the name. They were TNA. Go to an ad agency that you're trying to sell stuff to and say, yeah, I'm selling a brand called TNA. And they go, tits and ass? No, I ain't getting partnered with that shit. But if they were Impact Wrestling 15 years ago, TNA would have been bigger than what AEW is now.
I think that may have been a part. I think a larger part was poor booking decisions, poor money management by Dixie Carter, not being able to pay your talent, putting all your faith in Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff again when they came back.
All right, how about this? No, you talk about 3 of the things you just mentioned were money related. If they had those brandings with those up, I know, not booking, but he said couldn't pay the talent, poor money decisions, bringing in Hulk Hogan. Those were all money related things. If they had proper ad sales and proper branding earlier on, they wouldn't have had those money decisions to make. They wouldn't have had those money issues to make. They
didn't have the name notoriety enough to get big.
But they had the names on their show.
WCW's little brother.
They started out as a weekly pay-per-view.
Right. And then they grew to all the way up to being on Spike TV, which was a top 20 network.
At that time, yeah.
But that was the Dixie Carter, Hogan, Bischoff thing. So they did
that. It was before that. Hogan moved them to Mondays. They were on Thursdays. Hogan's idea was moving Mondays, but they were already on Thursdays in prime time before Hogan got there. But the problem was they didn't, like I said, they didn't brand out. They didn't get great partnerships with mega brands. They couldn't go and sell TNA to Coca-Cola or McDonald's. That name wouldn't have sold with them.
No, but they did partner with the NWA and use the 10 pounds of gold as their original belt.
Yeah, originally until they realized the NWA they were dragging the NWA along and keeping the NWA alive and living by the NWA's rules for no apparent reason because the NWA wasn't helping them at all.
And one of those companies is still there.
Well, sort of. Both of those companies are technically there.
True.
And and the NWA was only there because somebody named Billy Corgan bought the name and just rebranded it. He didn't. That company didn't stay alive. That company was revived. It was dead for a while. It was a useless 3 letters for a long time. And like I said, TNA.
Gotta be kind of careful. Those useless 3 letters were partnered with the channel we're on right now for a little bit. So I think we should be careful about talking about those 3
I'm
letters.
just saying they were dead. That those letters were dead to the wrestling community, the National Wrestling world, and their National Wrestling Alliance was their name, and they were dead to the National Wrestling world. But back to the original point, branding is huge, and AEW has a much better branded name right now than Ring of Honor does. Ring of Honor hasn't run shows in a year, almost. You know what I mean? They've had a couple.
Last show was April.
But I mean,
Last weekly episode was April. It was like the middle of April, I think.
But they had like there was big before the big news of Tony buying them. The big news was they're shutting down and they're letting everybody's contracts run out. That was last December or whatever it was,
or November.
November.
November
Right.
last year. And then they had that one kind of last hurrah show in April. Yeah.
That was a horrible publicity to be like, yeah, we're shutting the doors and everybody's contracts are ending. Like, that's horrible publicity. And then they go dormant for a while, and then Tony Khan buys a brand. Is it really a company or is it a brand? I think it's more of a brand than a company, but I like Ring of Honor.
In today's business world, you're a brand. Yeah, you're a company, but everybody's a brand. We're a brand.
We're a brand.
We're a brand.
Yeah, but a company has structure. A company has a wrestling company has many employees running the company, whether it's referees, producers, talent, cameramen, like technology people, like AV guys, everything, all that. Did he buy all that, or did he buy the name? And you know what I mean, of Ring of Honor and their titles and that type of thing. I think he bought more the name, the logos and the titles and the video library than he bought. Because if I went and bought Impact Wrestling today, if I'm stroking a check for Impact Wrestling today, I'm buying everything that they have, their whole structure, their rings, their TV deal, their everything. I'm buying all of it.
But no wrestling company, I don't think, out of the 2 major wrestling companies we've seen purchased in our lifetime, which would be, publicly, WCW and Ring of Honor, neither one of them were bought all at once, Jeff.
That's my point.
They were all pieced out and parsed out.
And how did WCW fare after that?
So they're both, well, I mean, once they were sold, they were absorbed by WWE.
Okay, that's what happened to Ring of Honor so far, other than they've run a couple shows calling them Ring of Honor shows. That's all that Ring of Honor has happened. Has happened to Ring of Honor.
I mean, if you want to say it is above the bar of worm shit that was the Invasion angle, yeah, it's above that. I mean, sure.
They screwed that up so hard back in the day.
They just quickly.
It's because of contracts, that's all.
But my bigger point was, you made it seem like buying a brand is a bad thing.
Nope,
it's not.
So what I'm saying is he's using it as a brand, not as a company, meaning that's going to make it more difficult to run it as a separate company and split these brands up. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm saying it's more difficult. If he already had that structure and they already had a TV deal, which, I mean, they had that stupid what was it called? Sinclair Broadcast Group thing, which was horrible, but it got them out there a little bit when nobody knew what channel they were on, when they were on, all that stuff, when Ring of Honor was going. But if they had even a TV deal on Access TV, if they had a TV deal like that when Tony bought them and could keep them there and keep producing content on there for Ring of Honor, Ring of Honor would be different now than it is. Ring of Honor is like I said, he's bringing in some of the talent from Ring of Honor and their titles, and then using their logo. That's what he's done so far.
Or now.
Yeah,
It's
yes,
also
right.
very young.
yeah.
Right.
Very soon. I think the whole thing is to create the buzz so that he has some numbers behind him when TK does want to go somewhere and try to pitch if he has not done it already. Which honestly, if we look at the facts, why would you have put the belt on Jericho if you didn't already have a plan going forward at some point? And this was just step 2 out of like a 10-step process, was to put the belt on a, let's say it, I don't agree with it, but I'm a wrestling fan, a more marketable name like Chris Jericho is, because he is. I don't, Claudio's a great wrestler and all that. He screams more Ring of Honor than Jericho does. But the TV execs don't care about that. Half of them probably don't give a hootenanny crap about wrestling. They care about the almighty dollar bill and advertising sales. So if you put the belt on Jericho and you've been counting things and you've already had pay-per-views and you've gauged interest of all these things, now you're collecting numbers to kind of go forward in this and keep moving this stuff forward and say, look at the buzz, look what we've done. There's got to be a plan. There's no way. And I know people love giving TK shit because he's young and he doesn't know what he's doing. And everybody has an opinion on the rest. Oh, look, everybody has a lot of things the same. That doesn't mean that everybody's right because they have a thing. He has a plan. He has to, because if he doesn't, then this is just going to fade into the ether. And all of this discussion was going to be for nothing. All of these people's Twitter garbage threads are going to be for nothing.
Let me piggyback off that because it's going to merge into what Sunday had said.
You're going to say it a lot better than I just.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Final thoughts.
This is just my thought. Plans changed, and we know that. When ROH decided they were going to shut down, this is again my opinion, last year, Tony Khan said, that's an opportunity. I need to get some stuff in place. And then all of a sudden he went, wait, I don't have that type of time because Vince McMahon's going to buy it and then flood Peacock with it and bury everything I'm trying to do over here. The plan to buy ROH, I think, for Tony Khan got accelerated. Would he have loved to have a TV deal in place? Absolutely. Would he have loved to have some structure with a roster? Absolutely. I don't think he had time to do any of that. I think he had to buy the company so Vince McMahon didn't. And now he's trying to just put everything into place. Again, just my opinion. I give him some credit because I really think he bought it so Vince didn't buy it.
I 100% agree with that. And that's why I don't necessarily believe he has a plan in place, because he bought it quickly in defense. And now I feel like the whole time he's owned it, he's shopped it around and has had zero success. That's my feeling.
All right.
Again,
We'll
go back to
coming
Coastal's disclaimer, opinions, blah, 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 blah.
Oh, yeah. Right. These are great speculation points, and we're all going to find out together in the next few coming months. The banter is important here, that we kind of get this out, get people thinking about it. Now we're helping to put eyes on it. Let's see what they do. Let's see what happens.
This is why this show is very unique compared to other shows out there.
We are wicked unique.
All right, guys, that's going to wrap up this episode of the Dudes and Belts Wrestling Podcast. For all of our listeners, or actually viewers possibly watching this YouTube video, because the video format of this show always goes on YouTube every week. Coastal, my buddy, where can you listen to this fine podcast?
Well, fans of opinions, fans of the wrestling world, can hear the Dudes and Belts Wrestling Podcast on Spotify, Anchor, Breaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio, YouTube, and wherever else you digest your podcast medium.
You ever think of getting into ASMR?
Like a silky bath for your eardrums.
Just not sucking ears, actually, would be great.
No. Ugh.
That is an infestation on Twitch, that's for sure.
I can't believe that's allowed.
Me neither, but hey, whatever.
Anyway, what it is. We're in the wrong business.
They're making money sucking ears. They're doing something better than us right now, so.
Okay, we need to leave before we get kicked off of something.
All right, guys. As always, and what a great way to end the show off right there. As always, folks, you can catch our live recordings again here on twitch.tv/Rocky Mountain Pro every Sunday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Every Sunday, recording every episode every week that you guys listen to on the airwaves. we're going to wrap it up. We thank you guys all for watching and listening out there on the airwaves. For myself, Johnny Deathdrop, Coastal Crusader, Marky Pins, and the Sunday Night Savior, we will see you guys next week. And for our Twitch chat here, we'll be hanging out with these guys for Dudes and Belts After Hours. Take care, folks.